The major preparation for listening is a practice. One of the first ones, there are three. One is the silence and the stillness and being comfortable with that. And it doesn't have to be 20 minutes. It can be 10, it can be 10 minutes, it can be 5 minutes. It can even be 1 minute. I've read a book called, I think it's called Mindfulness Minutes or something like that. And they've done some research that shows that even a 1 minute break will help alter your brain so that you can actually be more present, because our brains are working so hard all the time. And it's like, let's take a time out and just breathe for a minute. So, I mean, sometimes I'll just say, breathe, remember to breathe, just focus on your breathing just for a minute, just be silent. And that creates a space in which we can listen, because if there really is no listening without silence, because we can't do two things at the same time. We can't speak and listen at the same time. And so it's that practice of being still that I think is so essential to the art of listening. And then the second one is learning how to listen to yourself, listen to your own voice, cultivating that reflection of getting in touch with your own wisdom. And that's part of it too, because sometimes when we get in touch with our own wisdom, then it's easier for us to discern when it's time to speak and when it's time to listen. And one of the ways we get in touch with our own inner wisdom is to ask ourselves a question. And the question is, what wants to be said next? Or what wants to be done next? Rather than what do I want to say next, or what do I want to do next? Because by switching that question around to what wants to be said next, that causes us to go inside and say, well, I don't know, what does want to be said next? And then we pause. And in that pause, it's when it gives our inner wisdom a chance to show up for us, because we're so busy doing and saying what I want to do. I've got to go this, I got to go there, and just pausing and saying what wants to be said next. Oh, and then you come up with something that you probably wouldn't have thought of before. And another way I say that, it's going from head thinking to heart thinking. We just get ourselves engaged in that. And then the third one is just to be more present, to get more presence in your life, and to just practice being present in your life. And like one of the practices for being present in your life is just to take a minute when you're maybe fixing a cup of coffee or something, and be aware of what you're doing for every second of that minute, and just practice doing that. And say, like, for example, I'm saying, I'm walking over to the kitchen, I'm getting some water, I'm putting in, whatever it is, however you make your coffee. And then at the end of that time, you will have been present to that minute in a way that you hadn't, that normally you're on automatic. You just sort of go through the motions. And people who do that exercise sometimes tell me that that's the only minute they remember out of a whole day, because we're so busy trying to, what we call multitask, that we are, and we really, our brains, neuroscience has shown that our brains actually cannot do two things at the same time. We do them sequentially, very, very fast, but it wears our brains out.